everyone, and welcome to a new video interview for Jogonet Gaming News. Today we are joined by Joe Asher, President of Sports Betting at IGT. Joe will be joining us to discuss the current sports gambling market and the company's role within it. Thank you for joining us today, Joe.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
So it has been nearly 1 full year since you joined IGT. How has the transition been from the business to consumer side of the sports betting role to a purely B2B role?
Yeah, look, that's a really great question. It is a big difference from being on the operator side to being on the supplier side, for sure. The weekends of the football season are probably not as intense as they once were, and as an operator, you're focused on your business versus in a supplier, you're focused on businesses of all your customers, and they're not all similarly situated either, right? Some are quite large, like FanDuel and the Rhode Island Lottery, but others are much smaller, tribal casinos spread out across the U.S. And the importance of focusing on all the customers, I think, is quite different in this role than it was in my previous role as an operator.
What can you tell me about IGT's position in the growing sports business market?
Well, about 70 properties across the country, mostly casinos, operate our play sports business within their properties, and then a number of them online as well. So, and we're in just about all of the legal sports betting states at this point, which is by now close to half the country. The customers operate, as I said, principally in casinos, but also in sports venues, such as in Arizona with the Phoenix Suns and our partner FanDuel, the Arizona Coyotes in Arizona. Sahara Bets is the name of the app that folks would download, but it's run by the Coyotes rather than a casino in Arizona. And then the vast majority of the others are, in fact, casinos, and they're really large active properties, such as like Snoqualmie in the state of Washington, the Oneida tribe in Green Bay, Wisconsin, to smaller tribes in the Dakotas.
Now, the U.S. sports betting market is very competitive. What would you say sets IGT Play Sports apart in this market? And what would you say IGT brings to the table that other suppliers do not?
Well, I wouldn't speak to other suppliers, but certainly what IGT brings to the table is a fully, a complete and full solution. The hardware, whether it's kiosks or tills, betting over the counter, the equipment necessary to run the display boards, for instance, and then a full online solution as well. A really good looking app that's simple and easy to use, relationships with payment providers, geolocation and the like. So for somebody who wants to be in the sports betting business, IGT is really a one-stop shop. And that's been especially attractive, I think, for a lot of the tribal casinos who may, in fact, they all have pre-existing relationships with IGT and a comfort level and a trust with IGT. I think that's one of the big things, is the trust that partners have in IGT that we're going to be able to deliver. And then also the expertise from the operator side of the business, I think, is useful. I mean, I've had customers ask me things as disparate as, food items that they should have on the menu of a sports betting restaurant, to, what do you do when everybody is betting the same side of a game because your customers are fans of a particular team? I mean, I think the Oneida tribe in Green Bay is a great example for that. I mean, you know, the Green Bay Packers aren't just a local football team, it's an institution in the area. And so obviously you're going to get a lot of play on the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. And what do you do about it? If you're the casino, you probably root for the other side on that game. There's not much else you can do about it other than when the Packers win and cover is, you know, have the money ready to pay the customers and invite them to come back the next week. So I think, you know, we offer all that, the hardware, the software, and the business knowledge on things large and small, from risk management to food items on the menu.
Now, it's a very exciting moment for sports betting. As we all know, the NFL season kicked off earlier this month, and this is obviously set to drive more sports betting in the United States. Now, in terms of betting behavior, what do you think we will see now through the Super Bowl?
Well, I think the popularity of the NFL just continues to grow, and its prominence in the American culture has probably never been higher. And the NFL does such an incredible job of promoting the product. And you know, we're recording this on a Monday after the Sunday football games. And, you know, some of the endings in those games yesterday was just unbelievable. I mean, it is a compelling product. And so people, you know, continue obviously to bet all the pregame bets. They love betting in the game. The in-play betting on the NFL continues to grow because I think the pace of play is pretty conducive to in-play betting. And, you know, and in the NFL these days, it seems like no team is ever out of it. You know, the Raiders were up 20-0 yesterday over the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, you know, come back to win it in overtime. And you know, you saw that in the Jets coming back to beat the Browns when they were down 13 inside of 2 minutes. So I think the team's not out of it until, you know, the final whistle blows for many of these games, and I think it just makes for compelling viewership for customers.
Now, perhaps you have briefly touched upon this next question, but have you already seen any trends in terms of futures, parlays, and so on?
Well, I think certainly parlay betting, the ability to parlay different props, same game parlays, where you can parlay multiple outcomes within a game. You know, the old way of doing things, they were called correlated parlays, and so you couldn't parlay those two things, like number of passing yards that Tom Brady's going to have, over or under 265, number of receptions that Evans will have, for instance, and the Buccaneers win. And the ability to parlay those correlated things is clearly proven to be very popular. I think FanDuel in particular has done a really good job with developing that market. And so I think parlay betting continues to be popular because the customer can risk a little and win a lot. But the form of the parlays, I think, is changing and to different sorts of things tied to individual player performance.
Now, speaking on the sports betting industry at large, the last few years have been focused on market expansion and what state will be next. Now that that phase is perhaps mostly behind us, what do you think the next 4 years will look like?
Well, I do think there's obviously more states to come. A lot have already come, as you correctly point out. You know, but there's a lot still to come, including some of the biggest states. Obviously, California has the two referenda in November, which will shape the future of sports betting in the most populous state. So that's obviously a big thing. Florida is still to come as well. So there are some states and some really big states left to come, in addition to places like Ohio going live in January. Kansas, of course, just went live, and Missouri is still to come. I think also so much of the business has been marketing driven to date, with a big amount of money spent on advertising. Over time, that shifts to product, and getting the most compelling product into consumers' hands. And over time, I think product becomes much more substantial than marketing does. And I think you're also going to see a phase of, in the existing states, operators looking for new customers in those states, right? You have the early adopters, and those, of course, are very valuable customers. But you'll have quite a few later adopters who will enter the market. In part, maybe it's because of the advertising or the discussion of sports betting on television during the broadcasts, or you read more about the point spread and how games played out. So I think there will be a phase of more people in existing states, in addition to the swarm of people when a new state opens.
Now, for the last few years, the gaming industry has been more focused on sports betting expansion than iGaming expansion. Now, do you think that more online gaming would help or hurt the sports betting vertical?
Well, I think over time you really view them similarly, and by and large, the classic way this works out is a customer is attracted because they can bet on sports, and then they're cross-sold to gaming. So you won the Sunday night football game, and now there's an incentive to go and play blackjack. There's obviously a much smaller number of iGaming states than sports betting states, and that's, I think, a function of the political dynamics around it, and clearly iGaming is slower to get going in the U.S. and I think that probably, frankly, continues for the foreseeable future, where the focus is on sports, and it's just a different question around iGaming. But certainly the opportunity for operators is, iGaming has a much lower cost structure because you've already got the customers that you acquired through sports, and then you also don't have things like the league relationships or data or other costs like you have on the sports side. They don't apply on the iGaming side. You do have content costs, but it's a different cost structure, to be sure. It's just the pace of adoption around iGaming is slower, and I think that that slowness continues for a period of time.
And well, to close the interview, finally, G2E is just a few weeks away. We're all ready to go back to Las Vegas. What can we expect from IGT Play Sports at the show?
Yeah, well, look, G2E is obviously big time in the industry. For us, we're going to be showing off our bar tops and the what we call the Crystal Flex terminals. The bar top, folks who have been in casinos, of course, have seen the bar tops with the game content, be it video poker or slot machines or table games, and now with the IGT bar tops, there's a sports betting vertical within those, and this is something that I've been talking about, for a very long time, and now we've finally gotten the product to the point of where it's ready to be submitted for approval, and hopefully it's going to be deployed later this year, and so you'll be able to see that in the booth, and I think that's something in particular that's going to be very, very popular. The Crystal Flex allows you to do the same thing, but in a sit-down format as opposed to standing at the bar. And then, of course, we'll have the latest generation kiosks, which have become, a big part of the retail IGT sports betting experience. And personally, I really enjoy going around around the show, seeing the new products that are out there, seeing old friends who are coming back, and some, of course, will be the first time since COVID. So I think you're going to see a pretty busy show. It's also an exhausting few days, I know, for everybody, because you're so busy running around trying to see everybody. But I'm really looking forward to it.
And we are looking forward as well. Thank you for joining us today, Joe.
Thank you very much.